Welcome to Tech Startup Stories, hosted by Natalie Binns. This is the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of the B2B startup world.
Hi, I'm Natalie Binns, and I'm the host of Tech Startup Stories. This podcast is really designed to share the unique and challenging journeys of all the people that are building small startups to scale-ups in the tech space. My background? Initially, I was in sales, and then I moved into marketing, and I've been lucky enough to work with some amazing tech companies. But my passion is really startups. And that led me back to helping tech startups set up their marketing and go-to-market functions where the budgets are tight and the resources are few and far between. So let's get into this week's podcast. Hi, everyone. Today I'm speaking with Yunsu Tang. She is part of a co-founding team for the company called Syncro. And this is not her first co-founding or founding. She's built businesses before. So welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you. Tell me a little bit more about Syncro and where it all started and how you built the business so far.
Thank you so much, Natalie. So Syncro is a B2B AI SaaS platform for stakeholder intelligence. It's for executive advisors and executives to cut through the noise in an overwhelming digital environment. I've spent years in corporate and financial communications before building this platform. And as a startup founder, I realized how much I need, the help that I used to provide for executives. And that's why I wanted to, utilize the latest technologies to really make this service more accessible for a lot of the business owners in the world and also advisors.
So how did that all come about? I know you're a co-founder, so I'm guessing there's somebody else in your team or multiple people. Tell me a little bit more about that.
I think like a co-founding relationship is a lot of people like talk about it like a marriage. So my co-founder, like, he's kind of like behind the scene right now. I think he prefers to stay like quite low profile. Yeah. And yeah, I think a lot of times people think about all these big ideas that they have in their heads that are going to change the world, but it's very important that we start with understanding ourselves, our strengths and weaknesses. And when you are actually looking for a co-founder, you also need to bring in that complementary skill set and mindset. And you need to assess, okay, if this co-founder has something that you need, something that you like, and like together, how you can actually build a stronger relationship and build a more successful business together. So I started my first startup as a solo founder. I remember at that time, a lot of people were telling me, you need a co-founder. Like, you need to go for a co-founder. And I was like, why do I need a co-founder? Because I could just do it by myself. And I felt like having been through both experiences, have being a solo founder versus like having a co-founder, I really understand, the need of having just someone to go through that journey with you, because there will be a lot of ups and downs, and like how you can actually carry each other. And at the end, it's not only about how successful the business will become. Obviously, that's what everyone wants, but before getting there, there's a long way, and it's very nice when you have someone to share that journey together.
I love that. And I think a lot of people would resonate with that. And I like the fact that you started out on your own and went through that experience. And now setting up Syncro, you've now got yourself a co-founder. At what stage did you guys come together? Did you have the idea first? Did your co-founder? How did that all come about?
Mm. So we were figuring out together. So at that time, I was pivoting our my first startup where we met. And I think a lot of the times it's like dating, right? Actually, like these are like legit terms in the startup world. You need to do co-founder dating before you're committed to a relationship. So like we spent some time dating, and kind of having these back and forth conversations about what we're looking for, etc. We actually fill in the 50 questions together for co-founder relationship. It's almost like pre-marriage counseling. And I have to be honest with you, I have done the process so many times. I think I've done it like at least with 5 different people. Sometimes, for some people it stopped in the middle. For some people, we finished a whole questionnaire, but then like we didn't end up working together. So it's just yeah. So I think like it's definitely an like interesting journey, and I think it's very much about values alignment. It's a lot about I think like at the end of the day, it's about relationship skills in a sense. Because a lot of the times nothing would be perfect. Yeah, someone can code, but then also like we are all humans. It's not just about how strong we are in one aspect, but it's about how like it's about our attitude. It's how much we're willing to learn and grow together as a team. How much are we willing to take feedback from one another?
Got it. That totally makes sense. And with the organization, so you've been going since last summer, and coming up to your year anniversary. What have been the kind of catalyst moments for you and your co-founder in that time? What have been the big things that have happened?
Hmm. I think going through a pivot would be quite a big moment. So I guess maybe I'm such a woman. I started the whole startup journey thinking that I wanted to use technology to do something good for the world. And I think that always motivated me. And I just wanted to do something that's more than, let's say, just a revenue driven business. I want to build something that's impact focused. So based on that, Syncro started as a legal tech platform for the renewable energy industry. And I didn't come from a legal background. Also, I didn't have any renewable energy background. But I kind of managed to do a lot of research and to realize that I can utilize my skill set and my network to tap into this industry and attribute something useful for our users, and also build something that can have an impact for the world, especially when it comes to climate change problems. And yeah, the solar energy is still the cheapest source of energy in the world. And at that time, I felt like, okay, if I was building this startup, when I was building this startup, the idea was very much aligned with my values and with the partners that I was going to talk to, no matter if it's a potential client, etc. So I think like we hit a quite a significant milestone. We managed to secure quite a lot of interest from multiple stakeholders, and despite not being a lawyer, I did manage to convince the heads of legal at the world's leading renewable energy industries to give us support, and we got quite a significant number of contracts, even live contracts to test our AI products on, and also to actually generate results and send back for feedback. I think that was the moment that I was like, oh my god, like I could do this. I really believe in myself, and also we had so many lawyers in the renewable energy industry, or advising renewable energy companies or projects who were willing to help out, just out of I guess a good heart, or out of what they see in Syncro, or like what they see in the team as well as me as well. So I always feel very grateful for that time. And the reason why I mentioned that the pivot was a pivotal moment was because obviously the idea was great. We got product market fit. The signal was pretty clear. But then at a point, I sat back and I literally sat down and be like, okay, I just went all in, and I just, kept, because I'm very much like focusing on progress all like every day, all the time. Um, but then when I actually sat down and really truly asked myself, okay, what actually am I very good at that I can really bring to the table? And that wouldn't be about legal knowledge. I was looking for that founder market fit, like, to sum it up. So that was the pivotal moment when my co-founder and I really sat together and be like, okay, I know that, we work together quite intensely, but then at the same time that we actually need to sit down and actually do a lot of talking, just really figure out what each other's strengths and weaknesses are, so that we get our best chance to win, in the startup world. So at the end, and after talking to him, and also after talking to various ex-colleagues, friends, family, like literally everyone I know, people who have a past relationship with me, and I realized that, okay, yes, that idea was great. We got product market fit, but at the same time, I need find the market fit. And that's how we pivoted to stakeholder intelligence.
I've not heard that before, founder market fit, and I think that's really interesting. Especially to pivot from something that was going really well to then take that kind of leap of faith to switch. So you've talked a little bit about, you said something really interesting when you sort of said, oh, I'm a woman. I want to fix things. I want to make the world a better place. And I really like that, because I think that's something that you rarely see with women founders focusing on B2B, because often you see a lot of these high profile female founders that are focusing on B2C, or women's health apps and women's fitness apps, which are all super important. What kind of made you lean in more towards on the B2B side?
Mm, I think I have to say I'm very lucky that I have managed to be mentored and coached by some of the very best people I have met in my life. When I was so I During my journey of building my first startup, I managed to convince and exceeded YC founder to coach me. And so I think he basically kind of like he w- he he's based in San Francisco, and he really tried very hard to drill me on a lot of things. I think, and I think, like, during this journey of being coached by him, I understand how the startup world works, and also understand how much I'm able to deliver. I think a lot of times when you think, like, you're right, a lot of women, they focus on female, fitness, health, apps, B2C. Obviously, I think that there's a motivation behind, because, that's a pain point that they have suffered, which is great. But at the same time, I think we also need to live up to our potential. I remember, pivoting from my first startup was very difficult, because I felt like it's almost like it was a heartbreak. It's like you pour in, your sweat, tears, everything into it, and people actually believe in you. I remember, my first startup is called Cine, and it was to a point that people started calling me Cine. I was just like, no, I'm not Cine. Yeah, so like everyone, like, just I could see that even when I was surrounded by users, and they were like, you're like, yeah, see me here, see me there. People loved the product. People loved what I was trying to achieve. People believed in the vision. And it was very hard for me to just drop that, because I felt like, oh my God, like I could see that the impact that I was making, my clients were happy. My clients said that, we helped them going through some first difficult moments when they're thinking of doing a career change, or like they really struggle to get the help they need as a minority to get into certain competitive industries. I think, like, I just really loved the impact that I was making. And so it was so hard for me to make a decision. But at the same time, during the whole journey, I've got a lot of quite successful people to really talk to me, to to inspire me without kind of like try to inspire me. They were just trying to, help, basically. And I think after gathering a lot of insights, data, wisdom from a lot of different people, I really realized that if there's somewhere that I can go to, I want to go there, because if I'm able to go far, that would mean that I'll be able to bring more people along with me, and I'll be able to help more people. If that's something that I want to achieve at the end. If I only wanted to do good, play small, I didn't have to, pursue the startup path. So if I decided that this is something that I'm going to do, that I have to go, yeah, all the way in and just do it. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. You've talked about the emotional side of things. I've had quite a few guests on this show that have talked about things like the marriage of co-founders. They've talked about falling in love with your customers, not the product. And so we're starting to use a lot more emotive language when it comes to startups. And I think this is quite a remarkable change. I know for me, early in my career, it was very much, this is business, it's not personal, and almost, being very hard nosed to separate the two. But I feel from talking to you and other founders that it's not separate anymore. There is a real passion, love for your baby, your startup, your business. The blend between your personal life and your business life is such that it becomes your life. Do you think that's a shift in business culture, or more women, or more kind of emotion and passion being brought into the world? What are your thoughts on that?
I think you're very right that I do think it is an emotional journey. Because it's funny because like what I mentioned, right? I used to be working at an advisory firm, and I would be the one just browsing through public data, browsing through data from digital sources, media sources, policy sources to gather insights and feed that to into our advice for executives that we were working with. So I guess that I think at that time I was sitting at a very safe seat, right? I wasn't in the driving seat. And it was the time when I was actually in the driving seats that I saw a lot of value in what I was providing. I think like being an executive, like being the leader of a company, being someone public facing is actually very stressful. Like because you end up just kind of living under public opinions. It's the same case like for no matter if it's an executive or politician. Um, you know, I'm happy that I'm living in a world that has free speech, which is great, and everyone has opinions to share, and they're able to share, which is great. And but at the same time, when you are someone who's public facing, um, it is easy to feel anxious and nervous just about anything that you're releasing online. So I do think that things become personal because your name is on it, your face is on it, your story is out there. And basically you have to become very vulnerable, be like, this is what I'm building. Welcome to give me feedback. And please give me feedback. Please judge me. And yeah, I think like you're right that especially when I started my first company, I really felt like it was my baby. I had to save my baby. I couldn't kill my baby. But when I guess the more you have done it, the more it's like it has become a muscle. It's like exercising. A lot of times, a lot of things have to be aligned for a business, for a startup to be successful. And sometimes it would mean that you will really have to send a lot of signals in the environment. And you need to move very quickly because you have limited time, energy, and money, capital. So you have to move very quick. Sometimes that will mean that you have to kill something, you have to kill a baby. I know that sounds brutal, but sometimes you really have to just accept that, you can't get it right the first time. It is about iteration. And each iteration will become better as long as you just keep going. I guess that applies to any sort of relationships as well. Like you just have to not give up and just keep iterating, pivoting, and yeah, like you'll get there as long as you believe that you're making the best decisions you can at the time.
I think you're absolutely spot on with that. And also, to use your example of it being like a relationship, you've got to admit when you're wrong. You've got to be comfortable doing that. You've got to learn from your mistakes. But to your point, you've got to learn quickly and you've got to move fast in order to make things happen. Well, thank you for sharing that. On your business, you kind of moved away from your first startup. You started Syncro. What are your plans for the business for the next few years? What do you hope to achieve?
Mm-hmm. Um, it's very interesting because I think in the past we are in a very interesting time when people are getting more comfortable with technology. Now people know how much like ChatGPT can do. Then I do believe that there's less and less resistance in a lot of large organizations now. AI has become more like competitive advantage, and all the organizations, advisory firms, they're actually trying to proactively make a move to catch up. So I don't want to miss this window because it is rare. I think it is good timing to build in the space that I understand well, and I know what the problem is, and also because I understand it, I have the network, people could trust me. I hope they trust me. Yes. Yeah, so I do have a very strong vision. I really wanted to leverage my past experiences, network, and skill set to build something that can be very impactful in the whole communications industry. Especially when it comes to advisory firms that work with clients in high stake environments such as a crisis. And especially now in the very sensitive geopolitical environment, I do think that executives, business leaders are getting more and more anxious every day. They don't know what's going to happen next. They are like always thinking, okay, how I can say the right thing, make the right decision at the time. So I do see a lot of need for the application of AI in the communications market, and also I've talked to people, and I've also seen firsthand how executives and business leaders can struggle, and for any advisors, they are in need for a lot more support.
Wow, that's a lot. And with those people that you're kind of identifying, who are your sort of ideal customers in terms of the types of organizations?
So I used to work at an advisory firm called FGS Global. So it is one of the very great. Yeah, so I used to work at FGS Global. So the former name is called Finsbury. People know it as Finsbury in the UK. Yeah, so it is an advisory firm for executive and with a focus on strategic communications. So very much I would say that the product would be used by my ex-colleagues. I hope. And I think like during this whole journey it's about getting buy-ins from various stakeholders and really understand what our stakeholders are actually telling us. And I think like having that experience in stakeholder communications is so valuable even when it comes to building a business, because I've worked with a lot of large scale large cap companies. For example, I have done communications for a $9 billion IPO deal. For also Direct, I have won digital campaigns for a $1 billion New York listing. So I think like a lot of times when I have got these experiences, I understand what my users want. I think that help make things a lot easier. And that's also why we make the decision to pivot. Because, obviously I could keep holding on to the legal tag idea. But I think again, like I want to leverage, whatever resources that we can have. And to basically get a better chance to win, it would be that I should work on something that taps into my years of experience. And I think it goes back to the point that I think believing in yourself sometimes is the hardest part. But when you don't believe in yourself, then you would blindly follow whatever that is hot, whatever that you think is intellectually challenging, whatever that's like out there, right? But then if you believe in yourself, then I'm like, okay, I literally was doing all this work, amazing work for my clients before, right? Like, this is my value. That's the value that I'm providing in the world to my clients, and my previous clients trust me on this. So I should actually build in this space. I think like it's very common. I guess, to be honest, not only women, but especially women, that's something that I noticed, to have imposter syndrome. And when you have imposter syndrome, then you're like, yeah, yes, like I work years in that space, but I was just this little person. Like, come on, I know nothing. Like, why would people, why should I do this? Like, I don't think what I was providing was significant enough. Like I shouldn't be in that space. No one cares about it, because that's the voice you have to yourself, right? Like that's what you're telling yourself. Like, even though you were doing amazingly, you don't feel like the work that you were doing was significant enough for you to actually be like, hey, I know this industry. I'm going to do something impactful for this industry.
I think that imposter syndrome is honestly the worst thing to happen to people in business, because when I think about the amazing people that I know that have all experienced it, I've experienced it. I think pretty much everyone I know, a lot of women experience it, and I think you've highlighted that, and there are men that also have that as well. But I think it really holds us back from achieving our full potential, and maybe that's indicative of why there are so few female founders out there, particularly in the B2B space in the tech world, which I think is a really sad thing. And I hope that we can ignore that voice that's in our head telling us that we're not good enough, and make a louder voice that says, no, we can do this. We are experienced. We do have the ability to do that. So I really appreciate you kind of calling that out as an issue. As a CEO, you've mentioned, it's a stressful thing. You've come from a really solid background. You also talked about your international background of sort of living in London and moving around. You're living in London at the moment, but you're running a business that effectively is headquartered in San Francisco. So how is that working? How much time are you spending at home versus being in the US?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Um, I think like it's funny because I think the definition of home is also very fluid. Um,
Yep.
like when you ask that question, I was like, well, what does it mean when I'm home? Yeah, like home can be Hong Kong, home can be London. It depends on. So my family is in Hong Kong. My cats are in London with me. And yes, the business is headquartered in San Francisco. So I think like for us, we are trying to stabilize first. So we very much focus on doing the work out of London first. But constantly we are engaging with stakeholders in the US, and we still see US as first significant market, because just generally speaking, we have to look at the number of internet users. The number is just very high in the US versus the UK. Like in terms of like, as an English speaking country. Um, and yes, like I think we have an ambitious goal. So that's how some of the decisions were being made in terms of how we structure the company.
Got it. That makes sense. I know you mentioned you have a mentor as well, that you work with in the US. And with that, obviously building a business in sort of out of London, but also working with the US market. How are you kind of planning your go to market? What's been your approach around that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I would say it's very much about doing a lot of market research, talking to people in my previous companies. I do think that, the reason why I found the market fit is so important is because, you know, even the people who don't know you, they will look at your profile, be like, okay, you know, I think she would know what she's talking about because she has worked at these firms. And that which was the case in my scenario. I think a lot of the times it can be frustrating, right? Because I think people are like, oh, you have to, there's a certain profile that, let's say, certain investors or certain individuals they are seeking. They feel like, okay, you have to be, let's say, Yale or like Stanford computer science grad. Then maybe you work for a few years as a software engineer, then you go on and build your company. But that actually doesn't always have to be the case. Um, Actually, a lot of people, actually, based on research, the founders who are in their 30s, who are actually building in their 30s, tend to be more successful. They have a high success rate. Let's bring that way. They have a high success rate than founders, let's say, who are less experiences in a sense. But I'm not saying, I'm not trying to compare, because I think everyone's case is very different. But yeah, I do think like when it comes to go to market, having that founder market fit would make a lot of the process a lot smoother.
Agreed. I think there's a lot to be said with starting using a solid network, particularly where you've got the experience. So I guess my last question, given that this is not your first rodeo, so to speak, and you have this wealth of experience setting up startups, for those listening to the podcast that have been thinking about starting up, haven't taken the leap yet, what advice would you give those people? What are the kind of hot tips that you would give somebody that's thinking about setting up a startup?
I really think knowing yourself and having a very strong support system is important. I really think that it's so much about, your putting in the hard work and, knowing how you can leverage your network. Then you can create luck. Or like more accurately, you can enlarge your luck surface area. I think a lot of times, there are things that we can't control. I think we can't go into this thinking, oh, I must be building a unicorn. I must be, sometimes there's just no template to follow. Unfortunately, yes, there are certain templates like sales process, sometimes, all these different playbooks that exist in the startup world. But at the end of the day, what I realize is that you really have to train your gut. And I think like entrepreneurship is so much about, gathering insights and having that guts. And if you want to do it, you really have to just do it. Otherwise, you're going to sit here, talking about it instead of doing it. I think a lot of the times, people want to do something, they're not doing it because they're afraid of failures. But a failure is not an identity. You can fail, but then you can get back up again. You just do it again. But if you stop moving, then you let that become your identity. So yeah, like for anyone who wants to try something, just try it. Put together MVP, talk to potential customer. What's the worst that can happen, right? Like the world is not going to collapse because of you. Yeah.
It's great advice. I love it. Just take that leap of faith and give it a go, because what's the worst that can happen? Yunsu, it's been amazing speaking with you today. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much, Natalie. I enjoyed speaking with you.
That's it for this episode of Tech Startup Stories. Have a story you'd like us to share, or a topic you'd want to cover? Reach out and we'd love to hear from you. Until next time, take care.